Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone. A big welcome to all of you out there across the world and across all of our platforms. This is USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and our show today is The Listening Mentor. Our topic is Mind Reading Causes Challenges. And joining me is the star of our show, Caroline.heward. She is the Harley Street stress expert. She's a television presenter and an expert correspondent. She's been helping people bust their stress for decades. Let's welcome her as we talk about this subject. Hello, Caroline.
Hello. Hi.
Hello. So nice to see you today. How is it in chilly London?
It is very chilly here where I am, and I have to say, I'll be confessional, I am sitting in a blanket because it's very chilly here.
You know, Caroline, it's so interesting. We had a show earlier today. There was somebody in Washington State and someone in the state of Michigan. And people are literally freezing, but they don't seem to be unhappy. I can't stand the cold weather. I'm looking at it's 80 degrees today, I think, and
Wow.
sunny. I don't know. Do you like the cold weather?
No, I don't.
What are you doing living in a cold weather area then?
Well, I was born in England, and I've not really kind of gone very far from it, really. I've gone to different places in England, and I'm now in the northern part of the city, which is colder. But I have to say that I've been a bit wedded to my country, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know, something else that I found before we get into our topic is that the electricity prices are so high over there that many people are literally foregoing using electricity. They're literally sitting with blankets and gloves and long johns. And what do you think is going on?
Well, obviously, the cost of living crisis is global. And for countries like the UK, that is, subject to very cold temperatures and having very cold snaps of ice and, very low degrees of temperature, then some people don't have the money, to keep warm. And there is a constant conversation about they either heat or eat. They can't do both. So it is a topic and a cliche in the news from the politicians. I must admit that I'm making sure that I stay warm, but at the same time, I'm keeping the bills low by using low energy electricity and not having the heating on all day, and just being a little bit, sort of considered about the rooms that I heat up. But yeah, it is a problem for many people, especially in the colder parts of the country, to keep warm because it is pretty chilly.
Absolutely. Well, stay warm, keep that blanket close to you. And as you were talking about the weather and the condition, the chill, sometimes that can flow into a relationship, and there can be obstacles that people don't understand what they are because of the communication gap or lack of communication. And I really feel that mind reading falls into this area, that when we start reading someone's mind, what can come back is twice as much negativity or feelings of inadequacy, confusion, lower vibration energies. So how do you compare mind reading to the weather?
Well, that's a very interesting question, Dr. JACALYN. Mind reading and the weather. Well, we can judge and I think I'm going to use that word very loosely, we can judge what somebody's reaction is going to be because of the weather, that they might not want to come out to play, they might not want to do something. And then there's other people that are constantly out in the weather, it doesn't matter what it is. And so when we mind read and we think, oh, we won't invite somebody out for dinner or go out and do something because they will not feel comfortable with the cold, or, oh, I'll just stay in the warm. And so that's when we can mind read with the weather having an effect on what invitations we send out, what we do, and how we interact with others.
Great answer. Thank you. What I found is whether it's in a professional environment or a personal environment, I know I absolutely am guilty of mind reading, especially when you don't hear from someone. So maybe it's a client, or you had a good rapport, maybe you went to a networking event and you really connected, and there's always some kind of follow-up. Hey, let's get together, let's have a call, let's have dinner. And you really think the person's interested, or you're in a relationship with someone. Yeah, can I call you back in about 20 minutes? 2 days later, like, hello, there's no call. And we start thinking all these things. And what I found is, most of the time, I can't put a percentage to it, it is nothing like what I think. It's just the person didn't feel like talking. They were busy, they were doing something else, and they put me in a little box and said, yeah, I'll get you later.
It's so true. And in relationships, particularly, whether it's a professional relationship or indeed a personal relationship or a friendship, and even family, if we're expecting someone to come back and they don't. I mean, I used to get very caught up by people saying, I'll speak later. And so I'm waiting for them to call later, and then the later doesn't arise. And it's a cliche that people use. I'll call you later just means, next time. But the next time didn't mean in half an hour, or a couple of hours, or later on in the day. It just meant later as another time. And I used to get very upset because I was waiting for a call and they didn't call back. And so this is really powerful when we are met with silence. How do we respond to silence? I must admit, if I'm in a relationship, an intimate relationship, I hate silences because I always feel, is everything all right? Have I done something wrong? And when there's that silence where we're expecting to meet up and then I don't hear from them, I'm not sure, well, do I clear my diary for the day that they're suggesting that we'll meet up, or do I just carry on? And so, yes, I don't particularly like silences in personal relationships. In professional relationships, I just think perhaps they got caught up. But it does catch me in personal relationships where I sort of do feel, well, I wonder what's wrong. And I sort of get upset. And then there's times when I get worried. And I'll give you one, for instance. Very recently, one of my friends, dear friends that I've known for over a couple of decades now, I've been staying with her while I've been in London on my training courses. And I didn't hear back from her, and I just wasn't sure. And I knew that she'd been in hospital, and I knew that she was looking after somebody that was elderly. And then when I didn't hear anything by phone calls or text messages, I started to get very worried because she's very, very highly communicative. And I wondered, oh my God, did something happen in hospital? So I couldn't even stop myself doing that. And I got really, really worried. And I left a couple of messages saying, please just let me know you're okay. And please just let me know that your neighbor's okay, because I'm getting really worried now. So this was my mind read that something was wrong. And they were both not well, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was.
Exactly. What you're talking about is something that I teach in my course, Setting Boundaries and Asking Permission. And it's really helped me because I would always give someone, the other person, the benefit of the doubt. And my first go-to is they've been in an accident, and literally start calling hospitals and start, asking around, Google search choice, and you never find anything, thank God, right? But what I came to really learn is that even though it seemed to be important to both of us at the time, it really wasn't. And people will just dismiss you by telling you what you want to hear. And instead of setting a boundary and saying, Dr. JACALYN, I enjoyed this conversation, but it's not going to go any further. I'd really respect that. That would really mean a lot, as opposed to, we need to do this, we need to do that. And I might say, well, can you elaborate? No, I'm not feeling it. It's just, okay, that's acceptable. So now what I'm doing as a result of so many changes, so many people coming in and out, I just say to myself, I expect the worst. My father used to say that, expect the worst and the rest will take care of itself. So even though someone's made a commitment to do something, in my mind, I'm saying they're probably not going to do it. So when you were talking about your day, I'm going to plan my day as though they're not going to do it. And if they decide that they are, well, then they should have shown up before. They could have let me know. They could have raised their hand and said, hey, I disappeared for a couple of days, but I am still going to get together with you on XYZ. And if not, then they have to schedule something else, because time is valuable.
It's very powerful, because this mind reading that we do, and we're all human, and we do it. It doesn't matter how much training that you've done. Even I do it. So, and I've done decades of training, so we all do it. It causes an inner anxiety, and it's our humanness that does that. And that inner anxiety is that we're thinking all sorts of things which are not actually true for that situation. But because we're thinking them, we're starting to get worried, and we're starting to get anxious and experiencing not great feelings inside, very much a case of, not being aware. And it will cause, the anxiousness causes a stress reaction in our body, in what we eat, how we're feeling. And so it's really, really unhealthy. And it's because we're mind reading, we're thinking all sorts of things without actually knowing for sure what's really going on. When I start to think things, I immediately go to a message, a text, a voice message, or something to reach out to say, please just tell me that you're okay, because I'm starting to get worried. And if I don't hear something, then I am starting to feel worried, and I'm thinking, am I being silly? But, this is our humanness, because we care genuinely inside. Our heart cares for another soul. And so if we're close to somebody, we don't want to think that something's happened to them, but we can't help it if we don't hear back. And these are close friendships, relationships, that we may feel like that. And I certainly felt like that very recently with my friend. And she'd actually been very ill and in bed, and had not been able to respond to anything because she'd been very poorly. So I was right, but I was thinking she may still be in the hospital, which was a different situation. And it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. But at the same time, I was starting to feel very anxious. And it's acceptable, because it's our humanness that feels those experiences and those emotions and challenges.
Thanks for sharing your personal story. I appreciate it. I do have just a comment, because the same kind of thing has happened to me. I have decided that if someone really cares about me, why would they want me to be worrying about them? If I'm reaching out to them saying, are you okay? Are you okay? Now, I've said this before, and I really mean this, because people have said this to me. Hey, I'm sorry I didn't get back to you for a week because I was sick. Okay, let me see if I understand this. You're running a business, you work somewhere. Did you call anybody? Did you text anyone? Did you send an email? Is there anyone who knew that you were sick? Well, yeah. Did you have any work calls? I actually did. Okay. So therefore, you couldn't take the step to let me know. You see me contacting you, but you couldn't respond. Just sick, just SIC, anything, just sad emoji, something. And then, typically, you know what? You're right. So then that stays in my mind. I go, not trustworthy. So the next time something happens, I'm already saying to myself, you've got something going on, and this is just who you are. When somebody shows you who they are, believe them. So I also, on the other hand, if someone's reaching out to me, even though I'm busy doing whatever, I don't want them worrying. I'll write back, hey, doing this and that. We'll get back to you. Might be a few days. But then at least they know. So to me, with the humanness, it's also respect and courtesy, because when you really love someone, you don't want them to be worried.
No, I'm in agreement, and at the same time, we are very much in a world that's connected with technology, and sometimes our energy is pulled in lots of different directions, so that we're not able to do and respond to every single message. I'm certainly of that ilk myself when I don't respond to emails straight away because I'm doing something else. And if I stop and respond to an email, then I've lost time and I've lost the momentum of the energy that I was working with in one particular subject or topic. And so sometimes the phone might ring and I'm in the middle of something, and then when I finish that consultation or finish the call, then I've forgotten what I was doing. And I frequently do that, thinking I've done something and I've not. So I write myself little notes, and that's, that's me, because I'm very present. And so I do feel, especially with our generations that have been brought up with technology, that certainly Generation Zs and Generation X are much more laissez-faire about their communication.
Yes, I think the generations has a lot to do with it as well. But I think also when we talk about setting boundaries, we can't know exactly what's going on with someone else. We can't have anything to do with altering their behavior. So for me, what I found is, because I have an autoimmune disease, I cannot afford to be completely stressed out worrying about why someone is doing what they're doing or not doing what they're doing. So now I've given myself the opportunity to set a boundary. And so certain behaviors are red flags to me. And when someone shows me the red flag the first time, that's when the emotions come up. I don't realize it's a red flag. But then after that, I know what it is. It's a red flag, and that's who they are. Some people are much more fastidious about getting back, and some people just aren't. It's like, I've given this example before. It's like you have a drawer of socks and you're going to put this pair here and that pair there, and they're going to stay there because they're not your favorites. You're going to pick the ones that are. And so I've been in the non-favorite section many times, and that's okay, because as far as I'm concerned, I don't want to be in that drawer.
Yeah, something that's just come to mind and you sharing that is that we've talked about the fact that people haven't got back to us, but we can be in a relationship, whether it's professional, personal, or intimate, where we're actually communicating with them, but they don't say everything that they feel or think or mean. And so when you're in that situation with them and they're saying everything is good, or yes, I'm really happy to do this, this, and this, and then you're happily going along, but actually inside the person is not happy, and you can feel that something's not quite right, and yet they don't say it because they're not sure how to express themselves, or they're in that what I call the audio digital, where they're kind of in a mind funk of thinking and analyzing rather than expressing what they're thinking and feeling. So we can be actually with someone and mind read what they're thinking because they're not saying things. I've frequently been in conversations with people where I've asked a number of questions and they've responded back to me, but they haven't given me all the answers. And I do wonder, sort of in text messaging and email and in conversations, and it's almost like, what is it that they're actually not answering is because there's a problem around it. So they just don't answer the question. And so that will put me, and I'm sure lots of others, into trying to work out, mind read what they haven't answered and why they haven't answered it.
Yes, I know. It's kind of like a dancing game. It's like, dancing around. And something else, and I think these are all defense mechanisms instead of hitting something straight on. I've known people where you're in a conversation, the conversation's going really well, and all of a sudden you hear this, well, I better let you go. I know you have a lot of things going on. I didn't say I had to go. I was enjoying the conversation. Apparently you want to go. But they don't want to say that. So then they put it back on you because they don't want to look like the bad person. So I just hit that right on the head. I said, you have something else you want to do, right? Well, actually, I do. Okay. You're actually bored with this conversation. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. You know what? Just say it. Just say it, because I don't like talking to you any longer either. So
That's just, I can imagine that happening. And
because we
it's
put, like, to Dr. Chan's thing, we have a mask on sometimes because we're on autopilot. We're saying what we're supposed to say. We're doing what we're supposed to do. We're not happy about it, and then it's going to come out. But if we set boundaries and we take the mask off and we're just real, maybe people won't like us, but they'll respect us and we'll respect ourselves instead of playing this game.
That's exactly what it is. It's an energetic game. That's the right word for it. Only when we're in it, we don't realize it's a game. But it's about the energy of you gaining energy, you taking energy, you giving energy. And it is the energy game. And, if people actually understood that we are all energy and that we can conserve and create our own energy without having to take it from others. And so this one-upmanship or not saying everything, I must admit that I'm much more forthright and say what I think and feel. And there's times when I get myself into an emotional, anxious state because I've not done something and I meant to do it and I forgot to do it. And then I'm all very apologetic. And that's because I've got 1,001 things going on and I've forgotten something, and then I feel all bad. But it isn't that I don't care about the person. It's just that I've literally forgotten and got so involved with what I'm doing that I don't write lists. You see, I write a little note if I have to do something, or I put a letter on my desktop on top of my keyboard to make sure that I address something. But sometimes I can forget things, and we are human in that aspect, that we do that. And I think that it's important to understand that we all have different idiosyncrasies, and when we're mind reading and trying to work out what the other person is thinking or feeling and not saying, this is where we start to respond with our own stress, our own anxiety. And indeed, it could be for some people ending up in a depression. I've certainly experienced when not hearing what you need to hear from somebody can cause you stressful situations internally. And that's your response reaction, not the other person. And so it's about you being able to handle your own personal response and reaction, because it's you that's suffering, not the other person.
Agreed. And you and I live alone, so we spend certain amount of time alone. And I think when you're alone, it's very different than when you're living with someone else, because you don't have anyone there to run things through. So you have to actually think it through yourself. And when you're in a relationship, let's say, and you live with the person or you see them every day, a lot of times those feelings can get pushed aside because something else has come up. But when you're by yourself, you're literally sitting there with it. And so what I decided to do, and I don't know if it was before my mother died or after, but I decided to stop mind reading. And I also decided to stop taking things personally. So, for example, if you and I were having a conversation and I asked you if you could do something and you said, no, I can't, I'd be like, okay, great. Thank you. That saved me a ton of time, because you can't do it. You can do it another time. But for some people, that doesn't work because they want to make you happy. So then they're like, well, I could do this and I could. It's okay. It's okay to say what you need when you need it. And I wish more people would do that in a respectful way. To me, that goes back to setting boundaries. But instead, we yes everything. Yes, I can do that. Yes, I can. And it's not possible and with good mental health, I should say. So to me, when we think about mind reading, I just think of chaos, negative energy, and going someplace that I don't want to go, that I've been so many times, and that road is closed down now.
Well, we're looking at the negative side, but we could be thinking about the positive side too. We could be thinking, have you ever been in a relationship where you think everything is wonderful, and actually on the other side of the fence with the other person is not wonderful, and there's something else going on in their world that you're not the center of their universe? And it could be, you know, in a work situation where you think everything's going really well and the company goes bust, you know, and all the workers lose their jobs. And that is certainly a very current thing that's going on globally, that, you know, everybody's really happy as a worker, and then they find out that the company's gone into liquidation and they had no idea of it. But there are certain people that know, they didn't share that information. So there are negatives as well as positives. I've certainly seen, you recommended me to watch a movie on Netflix, which was, I think it was called The Surgeon. And it was actually about a surgeon that was in holiday romances and getting married to several people. And he was the best thing and everything to each person. And yet he was not with one person, he was with a number of people. And everybody was feeling everything was wonderful. So you can have the positive side and everything's really good from your perspective. And we're mind reading that they're the only person in your life. And yet there's other things going on. So it can be in the positive as well as the negative. And it's really about how we handle what I would say is the truth. You know, when the truth surfaces, how do we handle that and how do we respond to it? And it's when whatever our reaction is what we can control, and we can handle the anxiousness and the anxiety and the stress that comes up from not being in control of the situation, of other people's behaviors.
It's so true. And, you know, I don't know if this is a generational thing or male versus female or something, but to me, let's say, I'm going to give a completely off the whatever example. Let's say someone asks you out for a date, right? You've had some conversations with the person and you make a date for a week from now. The old me would be thinking, okay, this guy's going to text me, call me, email me, send me something. Like he's gonna like dance the dance and walk the walk before we have the date. And then what I find is there's nothing. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna pick you up in 20 minutes. You ready? Wait a minute. And so
true.
Right. But what they're missing out on, and this can be in any kind of relationship, it's that intimacy of getting to know each other. So when you finally do have whatever that is, that meeting, you've built this relationship, as opposed to, okay, love to take you out, nothing, pick you up 20 minutes, 2 hours later, you're like, oh, boring, because there was no connection that was built. And to me, that's also mind reading. Why isn't he calling? Why isn't he texting? Why isn't he? I remember when, you know, as women, we have our girlfriends, and, you know, I would be with my girlfriends chatting. We used to chat with my dad all the time about guys. And my dad would say, you know, play hard to get and the whole thing. But you would just call your girlfriend on the phone and go, I can't believe it. He hasn't called me. He asked me, what do you think he's doing? And then you'd all have a conversation. I don't know what he's doing, but I thought I saw him with Susie. You did? What? You know, and now I don't do any of that. I just keep it all to myself. But I pretty much have an idea that if someone, and by the way, I just got this today off of one of the social medias. Hold on. Okay. What is the difference between I like you and I love you? Beautifully answered by Buddha. When you like a flower, you just pluck it. When you love a flower, you water it daily. One who understands this understands life. And isn't that true?
Oh, I love that. That's a beautiful quote, because it's so true that people will pick it if they like it because they want to, you know, relish it. That if you really do love something, then you will nurture it. And as you can attest, you have seen a lot of my plants. I have 30 plants in my home that I moved from London to here, and I nurture them. And, you know, my neighbours saw all these plants going up in the windows, and they're still there 7.5 months later, you know, and they're growing. I'm having to move them around because they're too big for some of the windowsills. And so I'm nurturing them. And that's so true, because I love them. And so I am nurturing them, feeding them with water, talking to them and saying, oh, don't you look big today? It's my...
You're a big boy, aren't you?
But that's, you know, sort of a a celebration of what I'm seeing. They're giving me a lot of joy. You know, I've had a number of my friends say to me, these are your babies. These are what makes you happy. And it's, you know, it's probably quite true, you know, in a crazy sort of a way, that I've got something to nurture and to enjoy. And so, yes, it's absolutely right. If you like it, you will pick it because you want it. But if you love it, you will water it, nurture it, and you know, hold it in your heart so that you can always have it, which is what a lot of my plants are doing for me. So yes, it's absolutely true. You would never pick, I mean, I love peace lilies. You would never pluck the white peace lily flower because you like it. It's because you love it. You would nurture it to let it grow and get more flowering, and so that you can keep viewing it for much longer.
Completely agree with you. And I think, to me, that is a great segue to this mind reading. If you love something, there shouldn't be any mind reading because you have a connection. That's what I think is the main issue. And I will own up to this. In the relationships I've had, in many cases, I've just been the flower that they plucked, and I wasn't the plant. If I were the plant, they wouldn't be disappearing. They wouldn't be causing me that, you know, where have you gone? What have you been up to? And then you can hear the whole litany of excuses that, you know, are complete lies. So I think to myself that when you are truly loved and nurtured, there is no mind reading because you have a connection. And you were saying earlier about the way our society is. You're extremely busy. I'm extremely busy. You and I communicate on a regular basis. I mean, it could be 3 a.m. I was communicating with you, my 3 or your 3, because that's respect. Okay, I'm not going to go disappear so you don't know where I am and you can't get in touch with me. Why would I do that? Because I love and respect you. When someone does that, I don't feel that they feel that way. So to me, that's a red flag that I can make all kinds of excuses about. If you are sick, and I'm not saying anything about your example, but we have these devices, right? We have them. We're calling a doctor. We're getting medicated, whatever it is. We can't take a second to send a text message if you can't talk, if you're too tired, if your fingers hurt, like you can't use a pen. I don't know. I'm just giving examples. Can you tell someone else that you know? Could you make a call to so-and-so? Could you text using my phone? There's all kinds of scenarios. But when someone just goes dark, I don't believe they have the best of intentions. I believe they're doing what they need to do for themselves, and they're not being honest with the other person.
I hear what you're saying, and I'm also hearing a value. Communication and connection for you is a strong value. And when somebody isn't continuing the connection, it literally makes you feel almost irrational that they don't care, they don't love you, they don't like you, they don't respect you. Because if anybody cuts across a value, then we start to become very precious and very defensive. And so I'm hearing that the connection and the communication for you is one of your top values. So from my perspective, one of my top values is professionalism. And so I'm entering into a business relationship with someone, and then they do something that's not very professional. I kind of keep it to myself, and I sort of think, well, that wasn't very good. And then they do something else, and I think, well, you know, this doesn't feel right. And then I question, what am I doing here? Because it's cutting across a value. And then if they do something totally unprofessional and I feel hurt by it professionally, then I just like cut my ties, because it's a value. And when anybody hits one of your values, you will know, because you'll get very almost emotionally irrational about how they're responding to you or not responding to you. And so this is really important, to have an understanding that we all have different values, and we all have a different hierarchy of values. For some people, they might have at the top of their hierarchy family. For some people, a relationship. For some people, it's work. For some people, it's money. For some people, it's professionalism, communication. So we'll all have, and we'll know when we hit one of our values, because it'll be there. And it's essentially what we're spending our money on. you know, one of my values is professionalism. So I'm spending a lot of money on training and moving forward in terms of my career. So I will always find money to spend on my career and my progression because that's important to me. Where there's other people that will spend money on holidays. And so they will put their attention and their intention focused on where their values are rather than making it personal.
Absolutely. Fantastic points. Thank you. So, based on what you just shared, you know that my value is communication, yours is professionalism. So, if you were in a relationship with someone, whether it's a friendship, a business relationship, and you expressed them, if I said, Caroline, communication is really important with me. So, if you can just be upfront and just communicate more as opposed to less, and you say, you know what, I understand, I'm going to do that. And then you do the exact opposite. And then I ask you again, did you understand? Do you have any questions about what I mean for communication? You say, no, I've got it. What does that mean?
Well, this is where we're stepping into the place almost of egos, you know, where we're needing something to be right in our way, and the other person has been right in their way. And so it's not wrong or right, it's that different people have a different hierarchy of values. So nobody's right and nobody's wrong. But if you don't fit, if you kind of slide off each other and it's not working, then that relationship, friendship, or business relationship will not work as well. And there'll be other people that are more akin to who you're being and are showing up in the world. And so that's how a lot of friendships that can start being really, really close friendships, and then the values of that friendship and those people change in terms of what they are focused on intentionally and what is right for them at the time. You know, and I do believe in this cliche of relationships, friendships are for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. So people come into your life for either a reason, a period of time, like a season, or a lifetime can be like 20 years, which is a lifetime. And they can disappear because the reason or the appropriateness of that relationship, that connection, is now over. And so then that then disappears. And so it might be that the connection disconnects because they focused on something else. And I certainly can think of a few examples, certainly with friends that have had children, that because I haven't had children, what's happened is that their focus then is on their children, and they will connect more with other people, other friendships that have got children. And so I'm kind of a bit pushed out until, you know, maybe the children are older. And I've seen this happen for many people, you know, that they're focused on their children, and then when their children have children, then it becomes their inner sanctum of family. And it isn't anything that I did wrong, it's just that their focus and their attention is in a different place.
And it takes a mature person to accept that, instead of trying to come in there swinging, saying, well, you don't spend any time with me. Well, they don't have the time, and your interests have changed. So I think that's also a big part of it, that when we become so emotionally attached to relationships and we can't take a step back and see what's going on for the other person, that they may physically not have any time to give because their life situation has changed. And now you two don't have the same relationship that you used to have.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, I've had friendships. I've got one friend in particular I can think of. I've been friends with her since I was 5 years old. And we've gone through all sorts of changes. And if I don't hear from her, I don't kind of think anything about it. And then when we do reconnect, it's like nothing changed, nothing happened, no time passed. It's like we just picked up where we left off. And I feel that after, well, it's 55 years, because I'm 60 this year, believe it or not. I'm the big 60. And so it's been 55 years that I've been friends with this particular lady. And she is now a great grandmother, and she's a grandmother, and she's, her children are all grown up. And so I remember when I used to help babysit, when, she was getting ready and we were going out. And then it was just amazing, how that friendship has blossomed, grown. And we just kind of dovetail in. It doesn't, change in terms of that connection. And the word that you used earlier on was connection. And I believe that's the crux of it. When you have a connection, then when there's a distance, a time lapse, when you have that strong connection, I feel that when you come together, it's like no time has passed and everything is cool. And I love that. And I frequently comment, it's just like we just picked up where we left off and we haven't spoken for 5 years. What's been going on in your world? And that's because they've got very busy and things that's going on, their work, their children, and sort of the caring that they're doing with their family. And likewise, I've got very busy, I've moved, and we forget. Time goes really quickly. I cannot believe we're mid-January.
I know, I appreciate you sharing that. Whoops, sorry. Whoa, there you go. I have a lifelong friend as well. And there's communication without expectation. So we don't live in the same state anymore. We get to see each other maybe 3 or 4 times a year. And there's no like, you didn't call, no, it's kind of just like, wow, I'm super excited that we're going to get together. And it's as though nothing's happened and there's no animosity. There's no lower vibrational feelings. Now, that being said, how would you feel if you were in a romantic relationship with someone and it was the same thing? So let's say it's someone that you see once every week or once a month or something, and then they kind of just disappear. You don't have those same feelings, do you? Because there is an expectation that they're going to be around.
That's very different. And I've certainly had that situation where there's a complete silence and you don't know what's going on in their world. And our humanness thinks, well, what did I do wrong? And then when I look through, well, did I do something? Did I say something wrong? Did I, what have I done? And when I've gone through that, sometimes I can get back to a place in myself to say, well, it's nothing about me. I have done nothing wrong. Nothing's changed about me. Something's happened in their world. And that's a cliche that I use. It's something that's gone different in their world that they're preoccupied about. And it's not something to do with me. It's taken me many years to get to that place of not thinking it was something to do with me and understanding that they just got caught up with something else. They could have been ill. They could have been in a situation, a family situation where, somebody's died, for instance, and they've not shared it. I am guilty of that when, I've had bereavements. I've literally completely shut down and can't respond to people because I go insular. And I don't feel it's as easy to come out and say, that somebody very close has died. Because it takes me time and I need to be with my own emotions. And if people send comments, I find it really difficult to read them because I'm too upset. So but we're all different and we have to be, I feel respectful that as humans, we are different and we all have our different ways of showing up and responding and being. And it's about understanding how much and how important that other person is to us and our world. And it is, I feel, comes all the way down to connection. If you have a good connection with someone and you don't hear from them, you then don't mind read in the same way as you would if the connection isn't there. And I feel that when you look at connection, it's about trust, integrity, honesty. It's about feeling that that person is a safe person to be with.
Yes, completely agree. And we're out of time, but what I also wanted to just comment on what you said is that both people have to be on the same page. So if not speaking for a certain amount of time is okay, in your book, it might not be okay in the other person. So you have to have that agreement. And again, that comes back to setting boundaries. What are the boundaries of the relationship? And what are the boundaries for you personally of what you can accept and what you can't? And if it's a situation where you have shared repeatedly with the other person that this is my boundary and this is what I need, and they continuously do the same thing they were doing, it doesn't seem like it's a good fit, because then you're spending more time being upset and mind reading than you were if it was a really good connection.
I so agree with you. And we are both baby boomers. And I have spoken to a number of millennials and Gen X's, and they have a really different view about communication. And
What are their thoughts?
sorry?
What are their thoughts?
Our workforce now, we have a lot of baby boomers that are aging out. I mean, I'm 60 and I was born in 64, so I'm the last of the baby boomers. But, sort of there is a lot of baby boomers in the workforce, and they're high on telephone calls and communication. Communication is one of the big things, because we would call round. We wouldn't use a mobile. We would just call round. We were very interactive. Whereas the millennials and Gen Zs and Gen Xs are not. They're very much in their screen. And I had a conversation very recently with someone that was 30 years old. She was a customer service person. And I was having this conversation with her, and she said she's okay with the telephone because that's what she does in her work. But there are many people that are of her age that don't like picking up the phone and have a social anxiety because they were brought up with technology. And so they have a social anxiety about face-to-face connecting and conversing, and also connecting and conversing by text, because they hide behind a screen in different platforms, and it makes them feel very uncomfortable. So can you imagine in the workforce, the millennials and the Gen X's and the baby boomers were all looking and wanting different levels and types of communication, and the problems that that can cause in a business relationship capacity.
Absolutely. I see it all the time. I see many young people, high school, and I don't even know if high school is Gen Z or some other generation, but that generation, Gen Z, the attention span is different than at our age. I'll be 61, my dear. I think 2 weeks before you, or a week before you. I forget.
Oh,
are you April 6th?
April 26th.
And I'm March 26th, or a month apart. But communication in our generation is vitally important. And so I would expect my communication style and level with you to be very different than it would be with someone from a younger generation.
Yeah, and it's only been recently that I have really started to look at this and ask questions, because I'm naturally curious and I'm naturally questioning. I am a questioner. One of life's questions is, well, why are they responding like that? Why are they not communicating? Why is it that they're not picking up the phone? And rather than start to get very angry and upset, which is our natural, and we can do that if we're in a situation, I start asking questions. Well, why is that person not picking up the phone? Why is that person only texting? And it's because it's what they were brought up with. And, to actually have those conversations with somebody that's half my age, it's quite insightful. That I am fascinated by human behaviors and how we interact with our young people. I generally am very, very good with young people, but recently I've had some challenges because I didn't understand they had social anxiety about picking up the phone. And that's been incredibly rewardingly insightful for me, because now I have a different level of sensitivity and compassion for that person.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think what you just said, compassion, is really the key word. Yesterday, I was at a workout. I'm not going to say where. And there were 5 or 6 young people. I want to say high school, maybe last year of high school. And they wanted to be together. So they asked me if I could move so that they could use my whatever this workout equipment was. And I thought, I don't think this is a good idea because I take it very seriously. And I know that you can get hurt if you're not paying attention to what you're doing. But I said, okay, I'll move over. So I moved over, and then the person next to me was just joking around. I mean, the class, it's very hard, and you have to be serious because it's your body, your temple, right? One false move, you could break a leg, fall, hit, or whatever. And this person was not taking it seriously, was trying to be a show off and couldn't do the work. And I found myself sort of tensing up because the person was right next to me. And so I couldn't be distracted. I was being distracted. And I said to myself, that's someone's child. That's someone's child. That someone matters. They're obviously they can't do the work because they're not putting their mind into it. So they're showing off to their friends, which is something in and of itself. So I found compassion for the person. And I thought, this person is choosing to act this way, maybe because of this person's age. I don't know, but I wasn't going to judge the person. And I just gave them compassion. And as much as I could, I looked straight in the mirror and did the work that I needed to do without worrying about what that person was doing.
Challenging, isn't it? Yeah, we are in a very interesting world right now that's very highly technical, and we are, the older generation, challengingly so. We are, even though we look good, we look young.
I wouldn't want to go back, Caroline. There's no way I'd want to go back to high school or college. No way. I'd go back to maybe 50, but I would, before that, too many lessons learned. I don't want to repeat those again.
Look, we are in an incredible time in history, where we've gone through all sorts of incredible changes. I feel very blessed to be living in our current times, in our current incredible changed times. And we're watching so many changes in our time, in our lifetime. It's quite incredible. Will be talked about in terms of what we've experienced for many centuries to come. Long after we've gone, and YouTube is still there, with all of our videos sharing our experiences. We are in an incredible time to be human in our world right now. And it is about, I feel, as we've been saying, to step into a place of compassion for yourself and for the other person, because then you become more peaceful.
Very true. And when people don't feel peaceful, they can reach out to you to help them bust their stress. By the way, we do have someone on Facebook, Lynn Sees. Hello, Lynn. Nice to have you with us today. Thanks for joining. Caroline, how do you help people bust their stress, and who can you help?
Thank you, Dr. JACALYN. Well, I help people literally bust their stress in terms of breaking through the patterns, the root cause of what causes their challenges, whether it be physical, emotional, mental, behavioral. And when I mean behavioral, it's if we're complaining about a relationship, a member of family, a friendship, it's whatever we're complaining about is our reaction to something that's not working. Physical ache and pain. If it's mental, anxiety, depression, or sort of a physical, mental stress. And if it's emotional, then it's sadness, loneliness, heartache. So we all are human, and we have humanness in terms of the way that we respond and react. Now, some people will walk around and say, I'm not stressed, but they're not sleeping, or they're complaining about the relationship or a member of family. And that's how it's manifesting their life. It's that in their life, that's their stress. And I help people using root cause therapy and chakra psychology, how the mind and body connects and what happens to the person physically, emotionally, mentally, behaviorally when there's an imbalance. And the imbalance is the symptom or the thing they're complaining about. And I help them identify root cause of what's caused the initial challenge and stress symptom in their lives. And what that does is it releases the emotion so they feel different, they feel more peaceful, and then it's almost like there's a light bulb moment, a aha moment, where everything just melts and they feel different. Or for a free 15-minute consultation and an introductory hour price for a bigger consultation where you will be able to break through more symptoms and I'm offering that at £49 now, and the free 15 minutes is part of that hour. So it's an hour with me, but 15 minutes is free, and it's a really, really incredible offer to really bust your stress and work through and obliterate everything that's causing your stress. So you can reach me on nomorestress@live.co.uk, or call me international +44 if you're local 07523 120 189. You can follow me on Facebook and LinkedIn, and I post a lot of these videos and broadcast live on LinkedIn and Facebook. Please connect with me. I'd love to help you bust your stress.
Bust your stress. Yes. Thank you so much, Caroline. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your evening, and thanks for being here today.
Thank you. It's always an honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone, whether you're watching or listening on one of our television platforms or one of our podcast destinations. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel, USA Global TV and Radio. There you can find all the playlists of all the shows that we have. We've got over 40 different shows per week. If you're interested in being a guest on any of our shows, you can go over to our website, usaglobaltv.com. Go to book your session, read the information that we have there, the offerings, and then scroll down and find a show that fits in with your topic and also with your time zone. All time zones on our website are in Eastern time. So if you are in London, like Caroline, you would add 5 hours to that. And wherever you are in the world, obviously you can look it up and do the conversion. So we are saying goodbye for right now. Our next show is coming up. It is the Perfect Podcast Show. You can see us on all of these different platforms. You can also hear us on these platforms at the bottom here. Thank you again, and over to our sponsors.
Hi, my name is Zane Carson Caruth, and I'm the author of this book, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever.
Reading is magic. Studies have shown that reading to your children lays the foundation for greater success in life. Reading helps develop language and vocabulary skills. It helps improve memory, and it encourages curiosity and inspires creativity. The benefits are immeasurable, and as a parent, you'll benefit too. In only 10 or 15 minutes a day, you'll be creating more memories and a bonding experience that will last for years to come. So take time to read to your children. Read them books about things that engage and interest them. Tales of fairies and magic fascinate children, and as everyone knows, the Tooth Fairy is at the top of the list. If your child loves magic, wands, adventure, and what child doesn't, you'll love reading them books from the trademarked series, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever. Follow along as Bella, the world's first tooth fairy, accidentally starts the tooth fairy tradition. Learn the tricks of being a professional tooth fairy in the book, Bella Starts a Tooth Fairy School. Your child's imagination will soar as you read the adventures of Bella and her magic wand. These wonderful books are available at worldsfirsttoothfairy.com and at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Walmart.